So today's video is going to be a follow-up to the turning acrylic with Carbide tools video that I did some time ago. And I've gotten some questions about people asking about, do you use the exact same thing when I'm turning wood? And my answer is yes. I still use Easy wood turning tools when I'm turning wood. I still use the same series of cuts. I'm going to show you the series of cuts in a minute that I use for turning acrylic. It's the same ones that I use for wood. But people have said that they have a little bit of a challenge, especially if you're new, with doing the scoop cut that I'm going to talk about. And the scoop cut's that initial cut to get it into round. So I'm going to show you a foolproof method of turning a wood pen so you don't even have to worry about that scoop cut. What we're going to do is we're going to use another one of the Easy wood turning tools where you're just going to use the square cutter. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to push into the blank and we're going to work our way down the blank to make sure that we have it. It is a foolproof method. But I'm going to give you probably a minute or two review of the other with tool technique and where my hands are that I'm just going to cut and paste out of my old video, put it on here just to give you a little bit of refresher, and then I'm going to finish off with that foolproof method of turning wood. So before we start the video, let's take a look at the way that and this is my personal technique, like to actually have my hand position. So you're typically used to seeing when you're using a tool that you have your hand on here, it's up against the bar, and I'm controlling it from back here. Now when we're working on a pen, I want to have a little bit more precision when I'm doing this. If I'm holding it back here, notice all the room that I have to be making a mistake or turning it or twisting it. Even though I'm trying to keep it to my body, and I'll continue to keep it to my body, I do have this turn. For me, I like to take the tool and I'll put it completely locked up under my arm. This finger will be going over the tool, and then I'll introduce my thumb here, and then when I'm turning, it's more like when I'm writing with a pencil. All my control and all my hand movement is here. So you can see here, it's really, really hard for me to make any kind of sharp or dramatic move. I'm turning it just in this little area. Another thing about using these tools, and we're going to talk about it after the second video, is sharpening. But what I want you to notice is when I'm making my first initial scoop cuts, I'm more straight on into the blank and I'm scooping it out using this part of the tool. And then when I'm actually going to do my shaving cuts or my peeling cuts, I'm going to be doing it more on the corner part of this one. And you're going to see that I'm going to introduce the tool at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to move it down, and it's going to be really important then when we talk about tool maintenance, why I'm doing it. So let's start to do a little bit of turning. So if you hadn't got a chance to check out my other video on turning acrylic, you might want to. And in that one, I use the round cutter. And what I do is I advocate 3 cuts. It's what I call a scoop cut, where I'm coming in at a 45-degree angle and I'm just scooping the material out like I'm showing you here. And then I've got my peel cut, where I'm going straight across the blank. And then finally, I've got my finishing cuts. But one of the things that I also advocate is rounding the corners, and we're going to talk about that one. So you can see here, to go foolproof on wood, I'm going to use the different cutter. I'm going to use this square cutter. And I'm only going to always expose about half of the cutter blade into the cut. And when I do my other video, I talk about not putting pressure in. This is going to be the only time I'm going to be completely different. My pressure will be going into the piece as I'm making my cuts. So the first thing I always do is, as I said in a few minutes ago, is line up the cutter head so it's always cutting on the halfway point. And you can see here I've got it lined up, so I'm going to be cutting it in on the halfway point, and I'm going to expose the cutter, and I'm going to work my way down to the point that I get it down on the other end. If I was to use the round cutter, this is where I'm replacing that scoop cut with this round cut. Sorry, with this square cut. Now let's take a look at it and actually make the cuts. So I was negligent on my other video to tell you what speed I cut at. For me, the lathe is going as fast as it possibly can. I cut on a Powermatic, and so I'm at 3,000 RPM. And notice here, I'm only exposing half of the cutter. So I'm pressing in with half the cutter. I'm going very, very light. I know it looks like I'm being very aggressive, but if I've got a sharp cutter head in there, it is a very light and easy cut. And I'm just going to continue to work my way down this blank. And you can see here, it's going to take me no more than a minute to have the blank, almost complete.
And so here we go. I'm making that last cut. You can see the little piece popped off at the end. Let's turn off the lathe and let's take a look at what we got. So there we go. We've got it down to maybe an eighth of an inch or 16th of an inch proud on both sides. And then that's going to give me my way to find the edges, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make yet one more cut with this tool, and I'm only going to do it all the way down. And when I get to about the, I'm going to say 3/4 of the way spot on here, you're going to see that I actually can cut on both corners of this tool to give me a really, really nice clean shaving all the way down. So let's give it a minute, and here we go. We're going to turn this thing back on, and we're going to make this second series of cuts. Halfway exposed, I'm going down just a little bit more. I'm doing it in 2 rows now, so then that way I can get a little bit more control on the depth of my cut. Always doing halfway. And now I'm getting down to the point where there's really not a lot more that I want to cut in, so notice that I'm peeling it across. Tool works perfectly fine that way. You can always get it, and you see that nice little shaving cut that I'm getting on there. I'm peeling it across, and now I've got all my cuts done using this tool, and I've got it completely round down to not more than, as I said, a 16th of an inch on one side and an eighth of an inch on the other side. So now I'm going to do that technique that I talk about where I'm going to find my bushings. I am going to go back to my round cutting tool for that one. And you can see here, I'm just going to take that round tool, I'm going to work it down, and then when I get down to the ends, I'm going to go real slow, and I'm going to let the tool basically find the bushings. So if I over exaggerate, I'm going to tell you that it looks like it's, like an eighth of an inch, but it's really only about a 16th of an inch. It's flush on the bushing at this point. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to shape it and taper it back in the centers. So now I only have to worry about getting the centers. If you use this technique, you're going to get absolutely no chip out at the end. You're going to get no peeling at the end, because what did we do? We used the square cutter to get it all the way down. And then when we got to the end where we wanted to find that bushing, we rolled it back over with the round tool. So I had something there to give me some support on making this cut. And you can see I can go both forward into the bushing and pulling it away from the bushing to get that cut. I typically like to do it where I'm cutting it and I'm pulling it away from the bushing. But now, simple blowing it off, and now I'm going to go with my sandpaper. And I will slow the lathe down here on the sandpaper. I am not going to turn and sand it at anything more than 1,000 RPMs. And only on the first cut will I actually be sanding it that way and getting those scratches in as I'm going around, or as I keep saying, tangential. If you watch any of my other videos, I always talk about rotating my sandpaper, and I'm going to go in tangential one way, then I'm going to shut the lathe off, and I'm going to go with it. If I am only doing wood, and it's the only thing on here, it's not a hybrid or whatever, I am always going to just keep the lathe off, and I'm going to work my sandpaper down corner after corner and work it all the way down using, as I work my way down. I am never going to go back to do it tangentially. I like to just hand do it this way, and you'll see that if I run through all my grits, I'm going to be fine, and I get this down to a perfectly flat cut. So in summary, here's what we did. We took the square cutter, we cut it in, we worked our way all the way down. We only exposed half of the cutter every single time that we went down. Then we switched over to our round. We did a second cut with this cutter, and we did that corner cut where we were using the corner of the edge to peel it back and make sure that we had a really nice clean cut. And then we wound up switching over to the round cutter, and we did our finding of the bushings with the round cutter, and we did our center cutting with the round cutter, and that really completed everything that we needed to do on this blank. Our sanding slowed the lathe down, and then we went everywhere with the grain.
So with that, I thank you for watching this video. I always say at the end of my videos, please give me comments below for other topics, and that's how this video came about. People ask me on my acrylic video, do I use the same technique on wood? And my short answer is yes. I still use the scoop cut. But I wanted to give you another foolproof method, and if you use the square cutter and use that cut, you're going to have a foolproof method for being able to go through and turn this pen on wood. So, as always, thank you for watching the video. If you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. I'm always looking to answer the questions. If you like the video, give me a like. Please give me a subscription if you're interested in subscribing to the channel. Check out all my other videos that are sitting out there. But most of all, have a great day, and thank you for watching. This video made possible by the fine folks at Exotic Blanks. For all your pen making needs, Exotic Blanks has you covered. Find them at www.exoticblanks.com. And also by Pen Makers International, the educational source for pen making.